All right, hello everybody. It looks like we have 10 people watching us at the moment. I don't see anybody in chat yet, but it looks like our drivers have readied up, and we are getting ready for another running of the Qatar Grand Prix. This time with our Division 2 drivers. Hello, Spirit Lord and Devito09. How are you guys doing today? All right, so let's get everything set up. Might be a couple minutes. I might have to run real quick, just for a moment, as we watch the track. Doesn't look like anyone's out yet, so I'm going to take a moment. I'm going to step away from the broadcast booth. Oh, you're Boney. Okay, cool. So you are racing, I was about to say. I'd not seen you before. But you are Luis Boney in the Alpine. And just as right before I run out, it looks like we have two guys getting on track here. And it's going to be Streakla and Dre Dude who are our first guys on track. So I'm going to step away for a moment. I will be right back. It looks like Dre Dude will be the first person to put in a lap. So while I'm gone for a moment, we'll just go on board with him. All right, I apologize, but we are back. It looks like I didn't even miss a hot lap time, which is good. It looks like Dre Dude's just coming around the final corner. He's going to put in the first time. Like we said, I think Streakla is right behind him, so let's see where Dre Dude puts himself. At 22.3. And Streakla, like I said, just finishes a lap right after him. He goes provisional pole, but again, only two racers. He goes at 21.4. That's a really good time. Honestly, I think he might be good. Getting through to Q2 just with that time, but we'll see. D2 is obviously a little quicker than the D3 times of yesterday, so we'll see if that lap is good enough. We got several other drivers on fast laps here as K5 puts himself second with a 21.9, and Fexen in the Alpine also puts himself at a 21.9, just behind K5. Let's see, we'll check on Wide Vader here, who's on a lap. Looks like Lee Bob's on a lap. Let's see, Robot's coming around the last turn. He's about to put in a time, and it looks like both Williams have now put up times. Pickle Rick with a 122.1, and his teammate, like we saw, Dre Dude, 22.3. But that's good enough to go in front of Robot, who now comes in last of all the runners, the soft runners, I should say, with a 22.5. As Wide Vader did a lap on the mediums, but it wasn't honestly anywhere close to where he needed to be. So I wonder if he's out doing another lap at the moment, but I don't think so. His ERS looks like it's pretty low. So let's see, we have Mumford out there, and we also have Comic, who's a little bit further back than Mumford. It looks like both Alfa Romeos are out on a fast lap right now. And it's Mumford who's just a little bit further ahead on track. With 17 racers on the grid today, looks like we got about 11 or 12 cars on the grid right now. Some guys are starting to come in on their in laps. But let's see Mumford. Here comes Mumford's first lap. He's going to put in at a 23.2, which again, that's another run on the mediums. So we see a couple drivers doing laps on the mediums right now. And it looks like Umka's the third and final of the drivers running on the mediums. But so far, those two medium runners are the two slowest, so I'm not quite sure that strategy is going to pay off for them, but we'll see. As Behavish, the second Red Bull driver, is coming down the last straight. Let's see what time he puts in. He puts in a time... Oh, I apologize. He was just on his outlap. Or maybe he got an invalidation. Because he's pretty low on ERS, but don't see a time on the board for him. It looks like he was on the hot lap, but that time did not count. So I think maybe he had an invalidation along the way. Umka comes into the pits. See who else is out there right now. Got a couple guys out on that laps. Let's see, we got Big Melt here. Comic did put himself fourth. I don't think I saw that. 21.9. This is Big Melt. Now, Big Melt has come into the pits. He must have had an incident. He has come into the pits without putting in a time. And who else is out there right now? We have Behavish, who we saw earlier. I think we had a bit of an invalidation situation there. And we have Rise, who's out on the tracks. Looks like Rise might be in the middle of a hot lap here, and at least according to our numbers, he's putting in a purple sector 3, so we might have something going here with this lap with Rise. How are you doing, Sourtub? I see Sourtub in the chat. How are you doing today? As Rise comes around the final corner onto the straight, hits that DRS, and let's see where he can put himself. This looks like a pretty decent time right now. I think it's in the 121s. It is a 121.3. That's really good, and it's good enough for provisional pole. Oh, I don't know why I keep saying provisional pole. This is Q1. It's just P1 in this thing. I don't keep saying provisional pole, but this is only Q1. We have a full session, a full qualifying session in front of us. 2 more rounds, so it's not really provisional pole, but he puts himself on top of the leaderboards early on here in Q1. Looks like maybe Pickle Rick is on a hot lap as well. I think he's the only one. I think Boney might have just started one as well. No, it looks like Pickle Rick is now let off, so he's on an out lap. I apologize. Wasn't showing, or an in lap. Maybe he's going onto low fuel mode there. Hard to tell. It looked like he was queuing up for a fast lap. A lot of guys on out laps right now, but I'm trying to find somebody who's in the process of a hot lap. Boney looks like he's saving. It's not Boney. What's DK Vito doing on the bottom here? I think DK Vito's trying to put in his first hot lap time. Let's see where he comes in. I think he's a little bit behind the leaders, so I think we're looking at a 122 time here. Maybe not. No, we're not. I apologize. DK Vito is up there with the leaders. DK Vito puts in a really good time for 21.4, and I gotta say, those top 3 drivers, and even a couple behind those, I think are definitely safe. We're only gonna see 2 guys get eliminated in this Q1 session with there only being 17 guys on the grid. So, yeah, I think those, most of these drivers in the top 7 and... Well, I think anyone in the top in the 121s. So, anyone in the top 7 right now I think is definitely safe. But a couple of these drivers down here have not put in a lap time. I think a couple of them, like we said, have suffered from validations, and a couple of them haven't really seen them put in a lap yet. So we'll see what's going on here. I think we got Jay Morris coming around. He's on a hot lap, and through 2 sectors, he's got a 54.2. Jay Morris, a late entry onto the grid. Weren't sure if he was going to make it in time, but here he is, driving for his McLaren team. He's the only McLaren driver on the grid today, so it's going to be up to him to try to get his team points. Ooh, very close. Bit of a strange line through the last corner there, but he kept it clean. See where he gets across the line. He gets across the line with a 22-1. Good enough at the moment for 8th place. Right in the middle of the grid. And it looks like those guys who ran medium laps earlier have now gotten away from that. Everyone is now putting a lap on those soft compounds. Louis Boney puts himself fifth place. Nice lap from him. It looks like we might have a couple Ferraris out on the track. That of Big Melt and yes, K5 as well. But it looks like K5 maybe just finished up a lap. Or Big Melt may be queuing up for one. Hey Mars, how you doing? I'm just watching your buddy Streakler's put himself at P2 at the moment. We're watching the Ferrari driver of Big Melt here come across the line with a very respectable 22-1. And that puts him right around, right around the Jay Morris territory. Puts himself 10th for now. Right now we just have 3 guys who have not put in a hot lap yet, or a time, I should say. We have Bahavish, who's on one now. He watches on board. Bahavish coming around the last turn in gear 5. Pretty good line through the end there. We didn't get to see a lot of his lap though, and I think he's pretty far behind. It's only at 123. He's going to want to get back to the pits, I think, one more time, because that lap is not going to do it, especially with Mumford putting himself a little higher up on that leaderboard with a 122.158 sandwich right between Jay Morris and Big Melt. Yeah, I think Bahav is just going to want to get on another lap there, because that's not going to be enough for him. And we have Lee Bob, who is in the pits, and Umka, who is also in the pits. Neither of those drivers have put in a time yet. So they must be pretty confident with, if they can just do one lap on one set of tires, that would be enough for them to get through to Q2, but we'll see. Not a lot on track right now. It looks like there's a Red Bull out there. I think that's the Red Bull of Bahavish. It is. He sure looks like he's trying to get another hot lap in, but with the ERS he has and the tire wear, I don't think this is going to be the situation to do it. I think his best bet is to come into the pits. We'll see. He might just be racing back because he doesn't have a ton of time. Also on track, Munford, he's on an in-lap. We have an Aston out on track. I think that's got to be Robot. He's the only Aston. He's on an out lap. And it looks like DK Vito, interesting enough, is also on an out lap. I thought he was pretty safe for this session. Unless they're only doing a short qualifying and I have not been notified. I kind of thought that DK Vito was in the safe zone and he wouldn't do another lap, but it looks like he might be. Let's see what's going on with that. Like I said, Robot reaction is he's getting ready to put in a hot lap here. And this is a pretty early attempt for your last lap, I have to say. The guys behind them are probably going to get a bit more advantage with the track evolution. But let's see the time that he puts in here. He's really the only one out on the track right now who's putting in a hot lap. Like I said, DK Vito looks like just started one too. But we'll see him come across the line after Robot. So let's see how Robot does. As we stay on board through him, shifted through the gears all the way down to second. He starts the ever tricky Sector 2 through Qatar. Ooh, that was pretty close to a invalidation. And Rise has retired. I think that's smart of him. I think Rise has backed off of this lap here. Sure looks like it. Now, it might have been because of what we saw. He might have had an invalidation. I'll tell you who doesn't have an invalidation is Deco. Deco does not need this lap right now, but I think for his own sense, he wants to go P1. He wants to see how he matches up versus Rise and Streakler. Again, another driver. Yeah, he invalidated at the end there. And Robot has also come into the pits. I don't know if this is going to give him enough time to get on the fresh tires, but I think that's going to be what he tries. I think he's going to have to put in another lap to get through. Let's see who else is on the track right now. We got Dre Dude. We got Dre Dude in 12th. He is starting his lap. I think it's smart for him to have done another lap. Looks like he will need that. Interesting enough, Wide Vader has retired. I'm not seeing Wide Vader. Maybe he retired in the pits. That's an interesting move. He sits 15th, and he's got Lee, Bob, Angie, and Umka all behind him, as we now have 18 drivers on the grid. Angie joins very last second. But it looks like it's going to be just enough time for Angie to put in a line. I mean, in a lap, I apologize. As we see several drivers now retiring. But that list does not include Dre Dude. Like I said, Dre Dude on a hot lap right now. He's currently sitting 12th. He knows this isn't really a safe space for him. Losing the rear a little bit on that exit. And he now backs off. I think he invalidated. I think we have an invalidation from Dre Dude. And that's going to be it. At 2022-3, 122.3, I should say. That's going to have to be good enough if he wants to get through here. Let's see. Yep, the Dre Dude has retired. Sorry, I'm just trying to see who else here is. Umka's just starting his fast lap. Lee Bob's on his fast lap, and so is Angie. No, I'm sorry, Angie is just about to start. Are they going to get across the line in time? How much time do we have here? I don't know how much time is left in this, but it looks like, yep, I mean, we got 20 seconds. Okay, we got to cross the line. Big Melt is, I think, the one to watch here. Is Big Melt going to get across the line in time? He's certainly taking his time. He certainly seems to think that he's going to have enough time. Oh, I'm sorry. He's coming into the pits. He was on an in lap. It looked like he was getting ready for a hot lap. But we have Bavish. Let's see where Lee Bob comes in. Lee Bob's going to be the first one across the line out of these last guys on the track. Lee Bob comes in with a 121.5. A very good lap. Good enough for fourth. And we have someone who wants to watch Angie. Let me just see Bahavish. As Bahavish comes across the line, and then we'll watch Angie. So we have Bahavish who's coming across. The 122.1. That's good enough for now to get them into Q3. We have a request to watch Angie, so Umka's going to put in a... Oh, I'm sorry. Umka's in the pits, it's showing. Umka has not put in a lap this qualifying, so Umka is out. Right now, Robot's the driver to watch for here. He's the driver in danger as Angie comes around the last turn and it's going to try to knock out the Aston of Robot. Let's see, can they get across the line in time? They're going to need a 122.5. And they got a... No! A no time. I think we got a lap invalidation. It was enough. It looked like a 122 flat. But no, as they come across the line, it looks like that lap has been invalidated. And we have two drivers. Two drivers here who have been eliminated with no qualifying time. Which one's Flav? Which one is that? I don't see a driver named that. Oh, Strickler? I don't think you need a commentator. I mean, Strickler has so much pace. I'm just gonna tell it like it is. I'm just gonna tell you what I've seen. Strickler has great pace. I mean, just amazing pace. He's done it. He's done it every single race. But he seems to keep having incidents that, despite having a good qualifying result, leads to him being out of the points or being towards the back of the grid. And yeah, I'd say maybe today is the day that all changes. Strickler, I think, has had so many incidents that today is the day that streak clearly ends. There's nothing I could say that would cause otherwise. And yeah, I think Strickler has nothing to worry about today, even though it seems like he's gotten in a crash almost every other race. I think today's the race that he doesn't. So good for Strickler. Let's just get ahead of that and say that there's no way that Strickler's going to crash today. And we have Comic, who is now telling K5 it's his bedtime. And yeah, let's it looks like we got some action towards the back of the grid, back of the garage. Is the Red Bull of, is that Flav or is that Bahavish? It is. It's Strickler. Strickler heard how he has absolutely no chance to crash this weekend, and he decides, well, that's great to hear, and I'm going to go out on the track first. Followed by Robot, and what looks like behind that, the two Mercedes of Libob and J-Rise. I don't quite know what to expect. I haven't seen a lot of, what's the word, D2 races this year. And D2 qualifying sessions, so I don't exactly know who the favorites are here, but from what I saw in Q1, I'd have to say Rise. Rise is definitely one of the top competitors. And I do remember DK Vito having a very good race last time as well. So I'd say DK Vito in the Haas is someone to watch out for as well. But let's see if anyone separates himself from the rest of the grid. I'm really just saying Strickler. I'm kind of just removing the V. Oh, his name's Strielka. Ah. Yeah, I am saying Strickler. It's Strielka. Alright, so Strielka. Alright. Yeah, Comic's another good driver. I mean, there's plenty of good drivers here, but yeah, let's see. We have Oh my god, I've already said Strielka. Oh, fuck. You know what? I'm already committed to the Strickler thing. We're going with it. Strickler. Let's see Strickler. Flav. We've already had a commentator curse request for Strickler, so I don't know who. Yeah, Flav. I'm just gonna say Flav. So Flav has already had a commentator curse put on him, so I don't know who he's upset today, but looks like somebody in the chat is out to get him. You know, every car on the... This is going to be hard for me to keep track of because every single car is on the track right now with the exception of DK Vito in that Haas, and just as I speak of him, he is now on the track. And so now I really have no chance to keep track of everybody, but I'm going to try my best. As Strickler, Flav, Strielka, whatever the hell you want to call him, comes into the pits. He must have had an invalidation. We have seen plenty of that so far today. Plenty of people who I think are about to do a lap, and they come in as I miss their invalidation. And again, we got Robot coming across the line, and then we're going to have the two Mercedes right after him. So let's see where these three put themselves. First laps here, Q2. Looks like everyone's on fresh softs, but maybe not, because that's a 22.4 versus a 21.5 of Rise, and Liba puts himself in. So the two Mercedes go two quickest, but it's early. Looks like we have an Alpine across the tracks. That's Louis Boney. He puts himself in a pretty good spot. And Fexen right behind him, another Alpine driver, puts himself fourth. So the teammates are grouping together here. We got a bunch of teammates grouping up. Mumford is the next across the line, but he was only queuing up for a hot lap. Jay Morris has put himself in the 121s. He's second. And Big Mel does just a little bit better than him as well with a 121.7. And now the Ferraris are getting hot. The Ferraris are first and third as K5 puts himself above J Rise with a 121.4. We saw it sometimes in the 120s in Q3 yesterday and D3, and I have to say for D3 that was incredible pace. But seeing it in D3 yesterday, I do expect to see these times eventually get into the high 120s. And Comic, I know we had a couple shoutouts for Comic. Comic has put himself into third. So, like the chat said, Comic is definitely someone to watch out for. If Pickle Rick, who I think did an extra lap on these softs, extra warm-up lap. We have Dre Doodoo's coming across last few sectors here, last few turns I should say. Through the penultimate corner. Oh, a little bit slide there, but he does a good job of staying with it. All the way down the fourth. So he enters the last straight. And let's see where the Williams driver could put himself. As Mumford put himself at a 123 flat. Dre Dude goes with a 122.3. Good job by him. He puts himself up to 8th. Here we have Pickle Rick, another driver. Oh, somebody's in there. Oh, somebody's just trying to get out of the way there. Okay. See, we got a Red Bull. Both Red Bulls are on their out lap. And Pickle Rick is coming to the pits again, so maybe that wasn't an extra hot lap he was trying to do. I mean, warm up lap, I should say. DK is, oh, this is a great lap. I know this time's good. 129, and we do see times into the 120s. We didn't need to wait until Q3 to see it. We see it in Q2. The first lap in Q2 for DK Vito is a 129. That is almost, that's a full half a second above P2. Wow, what a lap from DK Vito. We might just have to stay on board with him for his entire lap next race. That was incredible. To already be in the 120s, just his first lap into Q2. That's some really good pace right there. Flav. The people seem to hate this guy, but I don't understand why. He seems like he's a pretty clean racer. Running around in his Red Bull. All out through these turns like he should be. Yeah, DK Vito should be in D1. That's great pace. Let's see. Here comes Flav. I think this is a pretty good time we're looking at here as well. I think we got a 120 something. No! It is good for second though with a 121.9. Good for him. That's a nice lap as well. Oh, duh, these are the tire ages. I had the wrong thing up. Sorry about that. I know someone requested the tire ages earlier, so I apologize. I did not have the right thing up. Interesting enough, I'm seeing Bahavish, who appears to be on a hat lap. He's doing them on medium, so he must have run an extra set of softs, but I don't think this medium run is going to do him much of any good other than wasting a bit of time on track and also wasting a fresh pair of medium tires. I don't know if this is the move, but let's see what kind of time he puts in with it. As he enters Sector 3 and he gets ready to go onto the back straight. The start-finish straight, I should say. And let's see what kind of time he puts in. I don't think he's really where you want to be, though. It looks like he is way down on his time here. And he's going to come in with a 122.3. And yeah, that puts him in front of a couple drivers, but he's going to need to put in a much better time than that to make it into Q3. In the elimination zone, as we have just under 6 minutes left. It looks like I'm seeing a robot on his out lap. He's about to start. He's about to start something here. Let's see where a robot. Robot, I think, is going to be the first person we see put in another time here. Again, kind of early, though, because I think this is going to be his last attempt. I don't think he's going to get another chance at a hot lap after this. He's on those fresh soft, so this is going to be a lap he's going to have to improve in. He's in the elimination zone right now, and due to him being out this early, I think a lot of the drivers that go behind him are going to have a bit of advantage with the track evolution. And he's going to drop down a couple spots, I think, even after he puts in a new time. So he's really going to need to do something good here. Let's see if he can. Not the only one doing a hot lap right now, but he's going to be the first one we see put in a time. So we're going to stick with him. We're going to stay on board with him, and I think right behind him we have Lewis Boney, who's on a hot lap. Either him, oh no, I'm sorry, that's Fexen. Fexen's the one we're going to see put in a time right after Robot, and Robot is almost 2/10 up on his time right now. He's better off hopping into the pits, I think, and he doesn't though. He stays out there, and he's just going to have to try his best to get a good time across, but I don't know if it's going to happen. I checked in on him in Sector 3, he was 2/10 up, and yeah, this is not going to be the lap he wants. It's a 1:22.5. It's slower than his first lap. As Fexen comes across, he also needs to improve. He is just starting his hot lap. I apologize. But Pickle Rick is not. Pickle Rick is ahead. 14 seconds ahead of his first time, and good enough for 8th at the 1:21.9. But it's not going to be good enough. It's only 3/10 above the drop zone right now, and I think that might have been his last run. Lewis Boney comes across the line, and Lewis Boney goes up to 3rd with a 1:21.3. Let's see who else we have on. We have Lee Bob, who's queuing up for a fast lap here. We got Pickle Rick, who's on a fast lap. Yeah, Pickle Rick's definitely looking at a fast lap here, and I think there's an Alpine who's on a fast lap as well. Is that the Alpine of Fexen? Yes, it is. So we got Fexen and Pickle Rick. Looks like Rick's way down on his time though, so maybe he's just on an in-lap. Oh right, he is on an in-lap. We saw him go across. So it's Fexen right now, who appears to be the only one on a hot lap. And Fexen, let's see where this puts him. That's a good enough time to get him into Q2, Q3 I should say. It's 1:21.6. I think anyone in that range is going to be okay. I do see that Big Melt retired with a 1:21.7. I don't know if that's going to be enough to get him through though. So we'll see. Him and DK Vito are the only ones to retire, but DK's got absolutely nothing to worry about. It's Jay Morris! We did not see what happened there. It looks like Jay Morris has just gotten a penalty for holding up K5, but as we look on the onboard of K5, he's only on his outlap, so I'm not quite sure why Jay Morris got a grid penalty there. Either way, he's all over the place as we go on board with him. Hit one of those sausage curves. And he's going to start his last lap, but he's got a grid. As it stands, he has a 5 grid race penalty due to obstructing. But again, from what we could see, it looked like K5 was only on an outlap, so I don't know what led to that penalty. I'm sure that'll have to get reviewed. Yeah, Boney has put in some really good laps here, Lewis. Again, carrying that Alpine team. I shouldn't say carrying, because Fexen's doing a great job as well, but they're both carrying that Alpine team to a whole lot of points right now. At least the potential to do so. I haven't really been paying attention to who's on track here. Let me look. Havis gets ready to start his lap. And then we have Jay Morris on the hot lap. He's 3/10 up, so Jay Morris, I think, is going to put himself in a pretty safe spot. As long as he can complete this lap, I think Jay Morris is setting himself up real well to finish with a spot in Q3. And like we said, we got K5 right behind him. I think K5 is okay to retire, but he decides he's going to finish this lap. Jay Morris definitely needs the time more than he does. And Jay Morris, yes, does improve. Comes across with a 1:21.5. And I think that's definitely enough time to get him into the next qualifying sector. And K5, I think, just did not improve on his lap. We have Jay Rise, who's on the out lap. Don't think he needs it, but he's out there anyway. Lee Bob is in the pits. His session's over. So Lee Bob's going to get disqualified. I should say disqualified. Eliminated from this session. Looked like Lee Bob was improving, but maybe got a little bit of a qualifying penalty. And no! Dre Dude is off. We just go over to Dre Dude. That's going to be a Q2 elimination for him. He was really trying to push through Sector 3 to enable his spot, ensure his spot in Q3. But it does not happen. He loses the rear, and Dre Dude is going to be eliminated here in Q2. There's some other guys who are fighting for their spot. Bahavish is one of those drivers. He's coming across the line. No improvement from him, so Bahavish also eliminated. We have Robot Reaction, another driver who's a bit down on their lap time, and he's going to need to improve by at least a half a second. So I don't know if what we see here from Robot's going to be enough. We also have Mumford who comes across the line, and he goes 10th, and he has eliminated Pickle Rick. Just barely so he has eliminated Pickle Rick here in Q2, and both Williams have been knocked out. The only driver who's in the elimination zone with a chance to get out is Robot. But can Robot make up on its time here in Sector 3 as he has not improved for Sector 2? This is where we saw Dre Dude crash out. I'm trying to see what the time is. I'm not seeing anything on its delta right now, but from what I see on the time charts, I don't think this is going to be enough. It's a 1:17 as he comes down the last straight. I don't know if this is going to be enough. It's not. It's just a bit slower than his last time, and he is going to finish last here in Q2 with a 1:21.4. So eliminated here in Q2 is Pickle Rick, Lee Bob, Dre Dude, Bahavish, and Robot Reaction. So both Williams. One of the Red Bulls, the only Aston, and a Alfa Romeo have been eliminated. But we still let's see what teams have gotten 2 drivers into Q3. I see Ferrari, Big Melt, and K5. I see the Alpines of Lewis Boney and Fexen. I think those are the only 2 teams to get both drivers into Q3. I may have missed something there, but I think that's the case. Comic, you're not the only one. I saw several drivers who I thought could have stayed in with their times, but a lot of people did not. So, let me just make sure I got everything covered here. We got DK, Strictla, Boney, Comic, K5, Rise, Morris, Fex, Big Melt, and Mumford, who make it into Q3. Eliminated from Q2 and not making it into Q3 are Pickle Rick, Lee Bob, Dre Dude, Bahavish, and Robot Reaction. And yes, like K5 has mentioned, Jay Morris has a 5-position grid penalty. K5, he got that penalty when he was in front of you, which was interesting because you guys were both on your outlaps, and I missed the actual incident. But at least from what I saw, it looked like you were the only one behind him, and you were on an outlap. So I don't know if that was a penalty that should have been given. But right now, it's on the board. So we'll see how that's handled. Yeah, right now, Jay Morris, who has made it into Q3, does have a 5 grid penalty. And I wonder if it's going to take a little time before we see these drivers going on the track. I got a 12-minute session here. It doesn't look like it. Looks like one of the drivers is going out right away, and that's going to be DK Vito, who's been our fastest driver so far. DK Vito is the only person that we have seen get into the 120s. He came in with a 1:29 and I think he only did 1 lap. But that lap was a 129. And again, everyone gets a fresh pair of softs as we enter Q3. We see everybody appears to be on them. We got several drivers on track, so we got Faxon and DK Vito leading the pack. Behind him, we have Flav. And we also have Lewis. And I believe Comic. Yes, Comic is out there as well. So we have a few drivers out on the track. His teammate Mumford is joining him. A couple drivers stay back for the time being. Morris is in the pits. So is K5. Rise just exits the garage. But let's get our focus back on track as we watch DK get ready for his first hot lap here of Sector 3. As he comes down the straight into the first couple turns. Let's see what he is doing that is putting him so ahead of everyone else right now, because to be honest, he really is ahead of everybody else. He's a full half second in front of any other lap we have seen put in so far, and the only one in the 120. And I think we can kind of see why. These are some pretty clean lines through Sector 1. Not too much brake there, which is obviously great. To be able to take these turns as much as full throttle as possible. Keeping that car very straight. Good control. Don't see many mistakes. I definitely think this is going to be another very clean lap for DK Vito. And it was until it wasn't. I think we just saw a invalidation. But he's continuing on, so maybe it did not invalidate his time. But either way, he's going to lose a little bit of time with that incident. But let's see where it brings him. He's still, even with that, it's a 121 flat. What a great time for him. It's Fexon. No, I'm sorry, that's not Fexon. It's Lewis who's going to come across second, and that's a 121.2. So he's improving on his times as well. We're seeing these drivers, and Flav has put himself on provisional pole. I can say that now as we're into Q3. Flav has put himself. Oh, so if the track goes red, it invalidates. Okay. I haven't been looking at that, but good to know. Thank you. And we see a couple more times. Everyone's in the 121s with the exception of Comic. Comic's at a 122 flat. We see Fexon go with the 121.8. Lewis with the 121.2. And both DK and Streakler right at 121. Mumford's coming across the last few turns. Sector 3. Let's see where this lap puts him. I'm not quite. I think this is going to be in the 122s. It is. It's actually even closer to the 123s. A 122.7. So Mumford has some work to do. Let's see. Everyone else looks like they're just on an in lap at the moment. Oh, we got K5. Okay, we got K5 coming around the last few corners. Let's see where K5 puts himself. He's been pretty consistently in the top 3 or 4, or maybe a top 5 to be safe, I should say. So let's see if he puts himself back up in that range. He's going to come in with a 121. Yes, good enough for second. Just 1,000th ahead of DK Vito. So we're seeing some really good laps. Really good laps put in by the drivers here. As Morris gets ready for his hot lap, and Big Melt's getting ready for his as well. Rise is actually on his hot lap as we speak. He's coming towards the finish line, and he's going to come in with a 121.3. So that's a pretty good time, too, but it's only good enough for 5th. if you're going to get in the pole, if you're going to finish pole, I should say, you're definitely going to have to finish in the 120s. I think there's several drivers who are showing the potential to do so. Definitely these top three. We've already seen it from Deco, and now K5 and Flav have put themselves into the conversation as well. I think from what I've seen, I still gotta favor DK for the pole, but yeah, great laps from Flav and K5 here. And absolutely nothing to be ashamed about when it comes to Lewis and Rines, who have also put themselves in the very, very low 121s. Formed a pretty big gap between the top 5 and the bottom 5 here. But obviously, we still have Big Melt and Jay Morris. We need to put in times, and Jay Morris is going to be the first person we see do so. This time looks a little bit better than that of Mumford. So I think we're talking maybe like a 6th or 7th finish here. Let's see. 121.4. But no time on the board from what I could see. It is an invalidation. Jay Morris invalidated. So nothing for him there. And now he's the only one without putting a time on the leaderboard because Big Melt has done his. He is not invalidated. And his lap is good enough for P6. Yeah, Mars, I did not see that. I did not see the Jay Morris red track. But thank you for helping point that out. So yeah, Jay Morris right now is the only one to have not put in a time, and he is under extra pressure not only because of that, but because he has a 5-grid penalty. So he's in Q3 right now, but he could still see himself, as it stands, with a P15 start. So things are not going all so well for Jay Morris at the moment. And to be very honest, it has not been a great day for the McLaren so far. The other McLaren of Angie joined pretty late and then got eliminated in Q1, also with a late track invalidation. So McLaren's got some work ahead of them here. And Jay Morris is the only one that has a chance to do anything about it. So now everyone is in the pits. Jay Morris and Big Melt both found their way to the pits as we get ready to see who comes out onto the track and do their last lap first. I think we're going to start seeing cars come out. Probably about 2:45 left. Maybe a little more. Maybe a little less. But anywhere from 3 minutes to 2:30. I think is where we'll see these cars come out on the track. So while we have a little bit of time, I know Morris is in chat. Morris, do you have any prediction? I know you're a little biased as the Red Bull team principal, but without trying to be too biased, do you have any prediction how we'll see this end today? I know Rice is sitting P5 right now, but I think he could definitely put himself on one of the front 2 grids. Yeah, I agree. I know Rice is kind of chilling in P5 right now, but he could definitely get himself on the top grid. Not the top grid, you know what I mean. The top stupid thing. What do they call it? Whatever. Babo's in chat. And we see the Ferrari. He is the first one on the track. Like I said, with 2:30 left, all right, now everyone's coming out. All right, so the Ferrari's the first one out. That's the Ferrari of K5. And a lot of other people are going to follow him. I see a Haas behind him. That's DK. Lewis behind him as well. Yeah, everyone's going out. All right, so we get ready for everybody's last laps here in the qualifying. It looks like Rise had some supporters who think he might get to pole position. Personally, I think DK Vito has showed the most pace, the most consistency with that pace. I think DK Vito will be the one to do it. But you can't rule out K5. K5's sitting in 2. Can't rule out Lewis. Lewis is in 4th. I think any of these top 5 definitely have a chance of getting pole. And we'll see where the rest of them can position themselves. So we have Big Melt, Fex, and Comic. And I gotta say, Comic's pretty quick, so you can't sleep on Comic either. And then Mumford and Jane Morris. Not that any of these guys are bad drivers. I just don't see any of them getting pole. With the exception of Comic. But he's got a lot of work to do. He's got over a second to improve on lap time for him to do that. So there is a ton of traffic as these cars try to queue themselves up for this last lap. Flav let, I should say K5 let Flav by. And everyone's getting ready. Let's see. The first one to do the lap is Mumford. Mumford is the first one out there. You can see first one across the line with just 45 seconds to go. So this is going to be everyone's one and only attempt to put themselves as high up on this leaderboard as they can. So again, we have Mumford. And behind him a Red Bull. I think that's a Flav. Yeah, we got DK right behind him as well. It's going to be really interesting to see where Mumford is 2/10 up. So Mumford's 2/10 up on his time, but that's still pretty far off pole. Let's see where Strickler is after 2 sectors. I'm really interested to see where Strickler comes in. Apparently, Flav has the potential to do all the way up to a 125. So can we see something like that from him today? That's still a half a second above his time now, and he is 2/10 up, so we're definitely looking at a time in the 120s for pole. If anyone wants pole, they're going to have to do a time in the 120s. But I can't sleep on Mumford here. Mumford is almost 7/10 up on his time, but loses it. He's going to lose a lot of time. He was on a really good lap, but loses. Mumford invalidates. He did. Yes, Mumford did invalidate. I am seeing that now. So Mumford invalidates. The best he can finish is 9th. Flav comes across with a 127. That's going to be hard to beat. But can anybody do it? K5's next across the line. K5. And he does with the 127.29. K5 has put himself on pole. Lewis cannot improve. He stays 4th. Comic goes 4th. So Lewis goes to 5th. DK comes across the line. Does not improve. Or he does, but it's not enough to put himself up any further. It's a 128. But where is Rise? Rise is coming across the line. Rise puts himself 4th. Another time in the 120s. But again, it's not enough to put himself on the front grid. It's only good enough for a 4th. Some great times that we saw there. And it's K5 who finds the way for pole. Great job by K5. So K5, a pole time of 127.29, followed by Strickler, another 127. DK, Rise, Comic, Lewis, Fexen, Big Belt, Jay Morris again with a 5 grade penalty, so he's going to start in 14th. And then we have Mumford in 10th. Great job by K5. The Ferrari finishes on pole. I think Flav and DK have to be happy with those times as well. They were consistently among the fastest. And they do so throughout that entire qualifying. Great job. Rise had screen freezes in Q2. That could explain why he was not on the pace like we expected, but it looked like he was good for Q3. And we're getting ready for our race here. Saw a lot of excitement in the D3 race. A lot of incidents as well. And I see Jay Morris having... I see a couple of guys having just left the session. Is there a reason for this? We're restarting the lobby? Okay. Alright, so we're restarting the lobby. I think there was a mistake with that Jay Morris penalty. Oh! Was I not supposed to leave? Yeah, Mars. I'm gonna just try to get back in. I didn't realize. Alright, so... Sorry about that. I think we had a bit of a confusion. I think we're just waiting for this to all retire. Alright, so we are all back. We're all back. We're just getting this lobby set up. A bit of an issue with the Jay Morris penalty. It was a penalty that shouldn't have been issued, so we're just resetting everything here. We'll hop right into the race once we get everything ready to go. Go out there, Phoebes. So we're just getting ready for the race to restart here. Getting everyone back in the lobby. But when we do get restarted, we will see K5 in the Ferrari on pole. Uh, uh, uh. Yeah, Mars. I think we're just getting sore. Looks like people are running up now, so I think things are getting sorted out. Looks like we're getting closer to the race starting here. Alright, and it looks like the drivers are readying up now. We have the grid order and everything sorted out. We're gonna get ready to race again here. As we said, we're gonna hop right into the race with this one. We've already handled everything with qualifying. Just had a bit of an issue with a penalty unjustly given on track, so we had to restart things here. But we're getting ready to go. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I'm just stretching out, getting ready for this race. I know we got K5 leading the way. Got Flav and Deco right behind him. DK, I should say. DK Oviedo. Fun fact. Pole to turn 1 braking zone is just 382 meters here at the Lusail circuit. That fun fact provided to you by Mars935. Thank you for the fun fact thrown in chat. Another fun fact. This track is in the desert, and there's lots of sand everywhere. And yeah, sand's everywhere. You see some fans going crazy on the top there, above the garages. I don't know what they're cheering at. There's absolutely nothing going on, but they are ready to go. Ready to have some fun. We wait for the 5 lights. I think the drivers are getting back into their garage right now from the driver's parade. Track is being checked for any last obstructions, whether there's garbage, drain covers, parts of the car, people, you never know, animals. Could be anything on the track in 2024. COVID could be on the track. You never know. You gotta clear it of all things. So that's what they're doing. Getting ready for the 5 lights. We saw multiple punctures here during the weekend. Over the course of the weekend. Both in real life and HDR. So you just never know what you're gonna see here. I mean, the people above the garage, they're having so much fun up there, they don't even realize they're above a garage that isn't occupied. They just keep throwing they're trying to start the wave, I think, up there. If you look really closely, looks like those people up in the DHL suites are trying to start the wave, but it doesn't seem to be going anywhere, unfortunately, but they're partying alright. Probably a few too many to drink up there in the DHL studio, but right now we're stuck on this camera. I'd check out anyone else in the crowd if there was an option to do so, but we can't. If you look over on the right, there's a Williams mechanic he seems to be putting the same thing in and out of a box time and time again. He's just classic case of look busy, but you're not actually doing anything. And there's really nothing else going on right now. The wave is still trying to be started above the box seats, the DHL box seats, and that's about it, folks. We're just waiting for the race to get started here. I have a feeling the 5 lights are about to be dropped on us like a brick. It's just coming out of nowhere. Still waiting for confirmation on what's going on here, what the holdup is, but we'll be ready for the race when it does begin. Let's see if I could find some fun facts about the country of Qatar while we wait. The country of Qatar. Qatar is home to over 100 nationalities. Can you believe that? How about that? And the Al Thani family has ruled Qatar since 1825. Yeah, good for them. Oh. Qatar, though, here's on the negative side of fun facts. It's the world's lowest female population by percentage of total population, just 24%. So, not a lot of girls over there. That could be a problem. It's shaped like a peninsula. 563 kilometers of coastline. And at 103 meters, Qarain, Abu al-Bal in the south is the country's highest point. And another fun fact is it's similar to the flag of Bahrain. As we get ready to start, what is going on here? We're just going. There's absolutely no warning, but we have begun. 5 lights and we're off. K5 stays in first. As we're talking about how Qatar has no women, K5 has stayed in first. There's got to be a coincidence to that. A correlation, I should say. And Strickler, second. And Rise in the Mercedes, I should say, has found its way to third early on here. All right, so let's get everything going here. We're looking at the tire compounds to start. Just one soft runner. That's Angie near the back. Good mix of mediums and hards. I favored the mediums in yesterday's race. It was a strategy that worked out well for me. But let's see if Flav and DK, two highest runners in those hards, can make something happen. Having missed the start, I didn't really see what happened. But a couple of guys have already dropped a few spots. Especially that of Pickle Rick, as here's a McLaren. I think that's also Angie. Yeah, so Angie and Pickle Rick were caught up in something. So I gotta try to get my coordinates here. I got very thrown off by that start here. Alright, so off the start, we got Fexen down 4 spots. Pickle Rick down 5. And not a lot of changes towards the front. Rises up a spot, DK's down a spot. But as we see Flav try to make an overtake early on here. On the inside. He'll make it stick, and Rise is trying to get past K5 too. Is K5 going to be able to fight these guys off? Let's see. He fights off Rise. So Rise is all the way up to 3rd. Comic 4th, and DK has fallen down to 5th. So we do have some changes at the front, and Lewis is sneaking up now on DK as well. So from what we're seeing early, those hard runners are having a bit of a tough time, but maybe that's just the case for DK, because Strickler is in first with those hards, and I am seeing a DNF and a yellow flag from the Williams. Unfortunately, the Williams right now 17th and 18th. It looks like Pickle Rick got some damage, and Pickle Rick is DNF'd. I'm trying to see the onboard with Dre Dude here to see if we can see where Pickle Rick is. See if we can maybe see what happened, but it doesn't look like anything that's going to cause a safety car. He just retired up the road there, so I guess good job by him to not retire on track. But that's unfortunate for Williams and Pickle Rick, because Pickle Rick did have some pace. But unfortunate, because now Williams has a car DNF'd, and their only car alive isn't last, so a tough start here for Williams. But anyway, we're going to carry on, and we're going to watch the front 4 or 5 drivers here. As Lewis has now moved in front of DK. DK is really struggling on those hard compounds. Even more impressive that Flav is where he is, sitting in first, because it looks like DK's having a real tough time. Beyond that, there's a pretty big DRS train going on, all the way down to Fexton in 11th. Beyond that, we got Bahavish, who's fallen a little bit far behind, and Wide Vader, who's now got a 3-second pan. Yeah, we got some guys down there. They've kind of fallen behind. Everywhere from 12th down is kind of fallen behind the rest of the pack, but we got a pretty significant DRS train going on with these top 11 drivers here, ending in Fexen and going all the way up to Strickler. I'm really interested to see if DK... we got a good POV of the race going on right now with DK. We can see what's going on in front of him. We also got a pretty good view of Morris, Jay Morris right behind him. I'm really interested to see if Jay Morris, and you could see from Jay Morris's point of view how much DK is struggling on those hards. We just saw him lose a rear end again. And I think Jay Morris is going to have a chance to put himself up all the way past DK. Let's see. He's burning a good amount of battery. DK has a much better battery saving right now, but is it going to be enough to keep him ahead? Can he stay ahead without pushing too much on the ERS? Right now he can. Looked like Jay Morris was trying to do the switch around, or whatever the heck they call it. And he does. Now he does. Now he's able to pull it off, I think. And he does. So DK has fallen all the way down to 7th. As we say that, Bahavish gets a penalty, so we're starting to see some penalties towards the back of the grid. But not a lot of changes at the front of the grid right now. Most of our drivers at the top are on the medium runners. DK is continuing the drop. Behind him is Big Melt and Lee Bob, so they're going to try to push DK now, who's, like we've said many times already, who's been struggling on those hards. Lewis has a 3-second. This is really early to be getting these penalties. I'm sure some other guys have some warnings already, but to already have a 3-second penalty, these guys are going to be struggling throughout this race. That's really early to get a penalty. That's really all I can say. And Jay Morris does get by DK. Oh, we saw that earlier. I'm sorry. Yes, so Jay Morris stays in front of DK, I should see. And now it's Big Melt who's chasing down DK. Back up front is K5, who makes a move to the outside to kind of try to get around Flav, and he does. For now, he's got the inside line into turn 2. And Shrikla appears. He's not going to get in front. So it's K5 who takes the lead now. And now Flav's going to have to worry about these medium runners behind him. Because Rise and Comic are pushing very hard, and they are right on his gearbox. They're giving him no space at all to make any mistakes. Again, Lewis right with those 4 as well, but he's got a 3-second, and that puts him pretty far behind. And we got a yellow Sector 2. It looks like we have an Alpha who's having trouble. That's the Alpha of Umka, who has an incident. Didn't look like he ever got off track, but he's going again, but that's going to drop him several spots. Umka's dropped to 16. Let's look back towards the front. Again, these top 4 keeping it very close, and it's 4 that we expect. So you have K5, Flav, Rise, and Comet. They're all very good drivers. I'm trying to check. Rise is your current championship leader, followed by Comet. K5's in 6th. Flav is in 11th. So this would be huge for Flav. I mean, sitting with just 25 points, this would almost double his points for the season if he could hold on. And not only is he holding on, but he's creating a little bit of a separation with him and K5. K5's doing his best to not let that happen, but it's up to 3/10 now. He's doing a really good job on those harder compounds. And that gap continues to increase. So that's a really interesting development. Maybe to see those medium tires starting to wear down a bit more than we expected early on here, just 6 laps in. Or is that maybe just Flav? I think it is. I think it's Flav pushing a little more on that battery. So last time we checked on his battery, it was in the 80s, which is now down to 65. We have another penalty on the grid, but again, it's towards the back. That's Wide Vader. And that's his 2nd penalty already. So Wide Vader, sitting in 13th already, has 6 seconds of penalties. And we are just a few laps into this race. All right, so Streakla now has created, quite the gap here. Look at Streakla. It's now 6/10. And even with the DRS, a good 4/10 at the end of the straight, away from P2. He's doing really good right now to stay ahead of K5. And K5's going to try to push because he's got Rise still right behind him. And none of these drivers have any room to make a mistake. It looks like we still have... Oh! Oh, and we've got a disconnection, it looks like. Oh, that is so unfortunate. It looks like we have a disconnection from our leader, Flav, who is now ghosted and has fallen all the way down to 6th, 7th, and even further. It looks like this has completely ruined his race. I'm trying my best. He's in. He is in, but it's not before it looks like he falls all the way down to... I'm going to send him a backup invite as well. I do have him added. I have everyone added. Where is he? It looked like it said he rejoined, but I don't see anything yet, and this is really unfortunate because now he has dropped all the way down to 11th. He was in first place, and now he is, I hate to say it, I think he is completely out of this race. It just shows you how close everybody was because he disconnected, and it drops him all the way from first, all the way to, I don't want to say the back of the grid, but pretty close. It's now 11th. We have a bit of a info from the Pickle Rick retirement. So Pickle Rick forgot to put on his setup for the new lobby, so that's what led to his retirement. And now we have seen things really get shuffled up at the front. Streakla again having disconnected, but he's looks like he's back. But again, it dropped him all the way from first. That's really unfortunate. Hate to see that. And now DK is the highest runner on those hards. It looks like the mediums were definitely the right call. And a very good job from Jay Morris so far. It looks like Jay Morris is up several spots. Let's give that a look. Yeah, Jay Morris is up 4 spots. Rise is up 3. So we got Rise all the way up in the lead now. And our biggest gainer so far is Leebop, who is up 5 spots. So let's watch K5 now, who sits right behind Rise. And they get a pretty good exit. And I think he's going to be able to push Rise here pretty easily. And Streakla, Flav has retired. Another terrible race for Flav. We've seen this, unfortunately, very often so far this season, where Flav has a very, very promising qualifying session, and then for one reason or another, things just don't line up for him in the race, and that is exactly what has happened today. He had a disconnection while in first, and I think maybe an incident after that has now led to him being the second driver to retire in our Qatar Grand Prix. I want to see... I don't think... We do have 2 guys who went into the pits. We got Umka and Dre Dude. So that's really going to benefit them. That was a well-timed safety car for the Alpha Tari of Umka and the Williams of Dre Dude. They were both very far behind, and it looked like they were just able to get into the pits right after the safety car was called. So I think as the safety car comes around one more time, we're going to see these leaders come in the pit. I want to watch some rides if he's the one to do it. And Robot gets a penalty on their safety car. So we're seeing a lot of penalties. Again, very early in this race towards the back of the grid. You can stay away from getting penalties while in this truck. And as we suspected, as I'm saying that, as we suspected, a lot of drivers come in. Very late break from Rise, but he does a good job of not getting a penalty. Looks like the Haas of DK was able to make an overtake. I just saw that from the back. He made an overtake on the Ferrari, I think it was. So DK with a very savvy move while out there. Yeah, he got in front of Jay Morris. It was the McLaren of Jay Morris that he got around entering the pits. Great move by DK. He struggled on those hards, and now he's going to have to try to find a way to make these mediums last about 17 or 18 laps once we get out from under safety car. And so, yeah, as DeVito has stated, the Flav commentator curse certainly worked, and unfortunately, it now Well, I should say, fortunately, Rise is in first because Rise has found a way. Let's see what he's on. He's on hard tires. Hard tires are obviously just the fastest tires, so he's not going to lose on those. He's already up 3 spots, so is he really going to drop any spots? I don't think so. The only car in front of him is a safety car, and that car is not even going to stay on the track, so I think Rise has a pretty easy win in front of him here. And there's really nothing that could stop him. It looks like Rise is just, on to an easy win. Comic's behind him, but Comic's got some work to do. He's on those hards. Lewis still has that 3-second penalty, so he's going to have a tough time finding his way up the grid, but he's still in a good spot as we stand. DK is going to have a good chance to make up some spots right off the start here. But are those mediums going to go to the end? From my practices and from what I've seen so far, kind of seemed like the max of those mediums was 14 or 15 laps. But can DK find a way to manage them enough to do 17 to 18 laps? But again, our focus here is on Rise. Rise is just having a great drive so far. He started 4th. He was struggling at the start of Q3, but he had a really good last lap. Got his way all the way to 4th. And now he sits here in 1st. You just gotta love being in 1st. It's a great place to be. And it just makes me think that he's gonna coast his way to the end and win this race. So we'll see what happens. DeVito, unfortunately, it's been an unfortunate day for the Williams. It really has. Alright, so I think the safety car is going to be in this lap, but we got a little bit of time before that happens. We have Robot, interesting enough, who has gone on the softs. I would imagine he's expecting, or I should say maybe hoping for, another safety car, because I can't imagine a world where these softs are going to make it 17 laps around this track. I think the tire degradation here is just way too strong for that to happen, but we'll see if his strategy pays off. I don't think he has much to lose sitting in 14th, so maybe that's where his thought process is as well. And again, looking at the penalties before we start here, we already have one driver, the Haas of Wide Vader, who has 2 time penalties. I don't know if he has any other warnings beyond that, but he already has 6 seconds added to his final time. We also have penalties for Behavish, Bodie, Robot, and Umka. And there it is, the safety car is coming in, so we're gonna get restarted here. Rise is your leader, followed by Comic and K5. These 3 have been right up near the front for pretty much all of this race so far. From what we've seen, I expect a pretty significant DRS train to develop. And it looks like Rise gets an early start to the safety car restart, and he gets a little bit of an advantage on Comic because of it. But Comic is going to use some battery, I think. Looks like he's just using that slipstream. But he's going to stay ahead. Rise does a good job. Again, Comic's not going to have DRS for another couple laps. And as we expected, DK, on those medium tires, has been able to make a couple of moves. And it's actually dropped K5 a couple spots since the safety car restart, so not a good start for K5. Again, it really seems like everyone on those hards is struggling compared to those on the mediums, but how long are those medium going to last? That's the question. We don't really think it's going to last more than 15 laps, and they're going to need to last 18 for these drivers. So, let's see. While the safety car restart happened, it looked like Big Melt was caught up in an incident, so he's down to 16th. And yeah, we're starting to see K5 drop even more further behind Lewis. Actually dangerously close to falling out of DRS before this last straight. He's going to have to do his best to stay in it, because I think DRS starts this lap. But again, he's got hard runners behind him, so he doesn't need to worry about anything like that. Umka's got another 3-second penalty, make it 6 for him. Look towards the front of the grid as DK has now moved into second, and he's looking maybe to get past Rise for first. And he does. He makes a move all the way to the inside, and he makes it stick. So now DK, again, was struggling on those hards, switches over to the mediums, and it's working out really well for him so far. Really good job by him, and now the only question is going to be how long these medium tires will last, or maybe if there's another safety car that could, fuck up his strategy a little bit. But he's now in first, followed by Rise and Comic. Lewis still in a really tough spot. It's going to be hard again for Lewis with that penalty, but if he does a good job of not getting any more, there's a good chance that the drivers around him will start to rack up some penalties as well. But it looks like Lewis is still struggling with staying on the track a little bit. I think we might have just seen another warning. Like it was awfully close. And K5 definitely looks like he has the pace to stay in front of the hard runners of Lee, Bob, and Fexen in front of him. But I just don't know if it's going to be enough to get, make up any time. Again, Umka with another penalty. So I believe we're now looking at 9 seconds. Yes, we are looking at 9 seconds of penalties for Umka, who enters the pits. I'm not sure what his strategy is here, because we were just under a safety car. So he might have some damage to his wing. And add another 5 seconds to his chart. Speeding in the pit lane, and Umka has now DNF'd. 14, so that's what it was. He just was DNFing, didn't want to do it on track. Yeah, tough race for Umka. Lots of penalties. I think he was involved in an incident early. But his car's back on the track. I don't know what's up with that. But anyway, let's get back to the front of the grid. As we ride on board with, for the moment, Liba. Getting everyone's tires. So far, we only have 2 drivers who have stopped twice. And there's Dre Dude and Big Melt, who are both caught in incidents. We have Robot, who's up to 14th with his soft compounds. I don't know what's going on with that Alpha of Umka. He had retired and now is just kind of on the track. Okay, his car's dead. He's gone. Don't need to worry about him anymore. Unfortunate for him. But it looks like DK has burned all of his battery, so maybe he's not in as comfortable a position as we thought, as now Rise gets by him, still with 60% battery left. And now it looks like Rise who has the advantage. And a track that's really hard to get battery back, and DK's now sitting with just under 10%. Behind him is Comic with 25, and Rise in the lead with 62. So Rise on the harder compounds. He's in first and has the advantage when it comes to battery. So he's in a good spot right now. Thank you for that info, Mars. Everything makes a lot more sense. I didn't know what was going on there. I thought they just actually retired on, like, in the pits, but okay, makes sense. K5 doing his best to keep things clean, sitting in 5th, but really 4th with the penalty to Lewis. But again, things could change quick. We're only halfway through here. There's plenty of places for drivers to get penalties. I'm really surprised to see that DK's battery got this low. I don't know if maybe he left it on by accident, but maybe he just felt the need to burn it. And it will be enough to get him again by Rise. We've seen them now flip-flop positions more than once. Last couple of laps. While we were watching them, I saw that Wide Vader had not only a time penalty, but it looked like an incident as well because he fell down the leaderboard a little bit. So Wide Vader is now sitting with a 9-second time penalty. And very far back on the grid. Comic has done has had a pretty consistent drive so far. Not a lot of overtakes, but I'm not seeing him getting overtaken at all either. He seems to just be comfortable in the position he's in. He's trying to ride it out, maybe waiting to see if he can make a move towards the end, closer to the end of this race. Rise is way off. That's the first time I've seen Rise struggle with the track limits. Gotta think he probably had one of his 3 warnings there before a penalty. But without being in that FIA booth, it's hard for us to tell, but I think we have at least one on the board. Again, DK doing his best to get battery up, but as you can see, he hasn't been able to harvest any battery. He's still sitting at that 9 and 10% we saw him at just a couple of laps ago. And Rise able to make an overtake just with the DRS. Doesn't need to use any battery to do it, and that's why I give Rise the advantage right now. Even if they flip-flop, I should say, every lap here, he's going to have the advantage at the end. That just might be enough to keep him ahead of DK. DK's going to have a real tough time harvesting any. And again, as you can see, still stuck at that 10%. Comic with not much more behind him, but it is a little bit more, around 25. Again, we have a pretty big DRS train. And Ensign Fexen in 8th place. Or maybe more like Lee Bob in 7th. Bahavis is kind of running by himself right now. 2.5 seconds behind Fexen. But Mumford's giving him a run. Look like Mumford and Bahavis are kind of on their own. Everyone behind is pretty much out of it at the moment. I mean, they're in it for the points. You got Angie and Dre Dude still in the points, but everyone who's not in the points is pretty far out of the points right now. So everywhere from Wide Vader down, it's got a lot of work to do to try to get the points. But looking towards the back of the grid, I think Dre Dude has a chance to grab a point for himself here, and that could be huge for Williams. Williams has already seen one driver DNF today, and Dre Dude was eliminated in Q1. So I don't know how much they expected coming into today, but Dre Dude doing a good job right now of having that point on the board. It really is, like people are saying in chat, this really is a tough track to save ERS. So guys like DK and Comic as well are going to have a tough time, I think, trying to make an overtake on Rise. Rise is doing a really good job of managing that battery, and he's doing a good job of holding on to those harder compounds, keeping them in a good range. And I think about 5 laps from now, we're going to start seeing DK fall off again on these mediums. So Rise is putting himself in a really good spot. We stay on board with Comic here. I wonder if Comic is going to try to use a little bit of his battery here to try to get by DK. Or maybe even Rise, who isn't going to have DRS onto the straight. Let's see as these top 3 drivers enter the start-finish straight. I think Comic's a little too far behind to make a move, but as we look at DK, DK's got enough pace to do it. He's been able to harvest a little bit of battery. Battery is a big topic of conversation right now, but as it should be. Might be the deciding factor at the end, and with these drivers being so close, I think that's what we really got to look at. As Comic, I was looking too much at DK. Comic has found a way into P2, so all of a sudden Rise, we're starting to see some struggle out of Rise, and maybe it's a little more time for Rise to use that battery. As let's look at DK. DK is now moved all the way in the first. These medium tires, they've been his best tires so far. So now, I thought Rise would win earlier. So easy. No problems in the world. Now I'm starting to think it's DK Vito, a.k.a. Bram. He's got I don't think he has anything to worry about. Look at him now. He's even all the way up to 20% battery. Nothing to worry about for DK as he sits in first place, goes all out, and I can't imagine any world where he crashes or finishes not on this podium. Hopefully I don't curse him. But I want to keep an eye on Rise here, because Rise has been saving up for battery, and now might be the time to use it. And we have a Red Bull off. Oh, and it's the Red Bull of the Havish. The Havish is off the track, and all of a sudden, Red Bull is in danger of getting no points out of this race as a team. I don't think that's what their team principal is going to want to see. As now he has fallen, he's pitted, and he has now fallen out of the points. So both Red Bull drivers, one is DNF'd, one is currently in the pits. Not looking good for the Red Bulls today. But who is it looking good for? Again, it's looking good for Rise. It's looking good for Comic. It's looking good, really, really good for DK Vito, who was in first and on those medium tires. But are they going to last another 9 laps? They're already 10 laps old. The Havish is a reserve, so he wouldn't have gotten points for Red Bull anyway. There's so much to learn about the rules in this league, but I'm learning them as we go. So Red Bull is getting no points today, no matter what. Even if the Havish goes all the way up, gets another 13 overtakes and finishes first, I've been informed that Red Bull is just absolutely screwed. Nothing going good for them today. DK Vito is not pitting. Who is pitting, though, is Lewis. But is Lewis going to be held up by his teammate, Fexen? Can Alpine pull off the double stack without ruining their other driver's time? Alright, I think he lost a little bit of time. I don't think Fexen was totally unaffected. I should say Lewis was totally unaffected. But the Alpine team did a pretty good job at timing that. And I think he maybe only lost about a half a second or so in the pits, but we'll see. And I have official confirmation that they are absolutely screwed, Red Bull. So, we focus our attention elsewhere, as DK remains in first. Questions on whether or not he will pit, maybe to a fresh pair of softs. He didn't do that many laps in qualifying. He might have an extra pair. And Lewis has another 3-second penalty. Unfortunately, Lewis is really putting himself in a tough position to win this race. I can't even say win this race, get points in this race, as he now has 6 seconds of penalties. Again, that's not even the biggest, as Widevader has 9. But again, let's look back up towards the front as they get on the straight, and that's where we've seen a lot of our overtakes today. K5 has clawed his way back to 5th. Again, everyone in the top 6 on those hard tires, with the exception of DK. And while on those mediums, he's still been able to stay ahead of Comet. You might have to wonder at this point if Rise maybe should have pushed a little more with the battery to stay ahead. But he decided to harvest, and it might pay off for him at the end. We'll see. See Comic struggling a little bit on the exit, as his teammate Mumford goes into the pits. A decent gap now between Rise and Jay Morris. The top 3 are separating themselves from the rest of the field. But Jay Morris doing a good job fighting with K5 behind. Dre Dude, another guy on very old mediums. He might have to pit soon. He's sitting in 7th. I would think he does. DK again decides he's not going to come in at this rate. I'm thinking he's going to make it, or at least attempt to make it, to the end on these compounds. It doesn't look like he's going to pit. But that's just my opinion. We'll see if maybe he does something within the next 2 laps here. Mars, I don't think he can make it to the end either. I just don't. I think the maximum on these mediums is about 14 or 15 laps. And like we said when it was under the safety car, DK's going to have to put in 19. That's just a lot to ask around this track on those medium tires. It absolutely is, and we're going to see if it pays off for him. It's definitely a high risk, high reward. I mean, high risk all the way to the point that we might see a puncture from him. We've seen it in races last year, and it would be the first example of it this year, but we could see it, so let's see. For now, he's doing a good job of keeping his pace, holding on to his position. Again, Lee Bob quietly just been sitting in a pretty good position this whole time. He's kind of just been in the DRS train. And doing a good job of keeping his pace while doing it. Pretty big gap behind those top 6 drivers at the moment, so I think we're going to keep most of our focus on them. The only person who appears to be in a battle in the middle is Lewis. And he's got 6 seconds of penalties, so it's really hard to judge where he is. So we're really going to keep our focus right now within these top 6 drivers as we just have 5 laps to go. And haven't seen much overtakes. Many overtakes in these last few laps. Another 3 second from Robot. I'm really curious as to if any of these drivers in the top 5 are sitting on 2 warnings. But they do all appear to be doing a good job of staying within the limits. At least for the time being. Trying to see if we could see any graining on those tires of DK, but it's really hard to see from our perspective. Go with a little bit of a cockpit cam here with our leader DK. That gap just appears to continue to increase. Yeah, the top 8 are doing top 9 even. It looks like Angie now is in the top. No penalties there either, so good job by them. Angie might have Angie's had a good race. Angie was all the way in the back of the grid, if I remember right. Yeah, Angie's up 9 spots, which is the most out of anybody in this race so far, so good for them. Look at those top 6. As you can see from this angle, those top 6 are still battling with each other, as they've been for most of this race. K5, he was on pole to start. He's down to 5th. Tall task for him to try to make the overtakes necessary to win, but he could still, maybe find himself a podium position. I just changed the tires. I apologize. So what's interesting is I think at this point, Dre Dude, anyone who's on these old hards might as well just, wait till the end. I think you gotta just cross your fingers and hope you have enough pace. It's Dre Dude sitting in 7th. I don't think there's really much of a point to him pitting right now, but see what he does. Yeah, Andy's doing a really good job in that McLaren. Good race for the McLarens today. Jay Morris doing a good job moving up from 9th. And now Angie is taking control of that 9th spot. But let's look again towards the front. We got Rise and Comic chasing down Vito. Again, this is about the time that we expect those mediums to really, really drop off and hit a wall. As lap 15 kind of seemed to be what we thought would be the max. But hasn't showed to be the max for DK Vito so far. Another penalty for Wide Vader. That's going to put his points in jeopardy. And these top 6 have absolutely pulled away from everyone else on track. Really separated themselves and doing a great job up until this point. Again, right now Haas is battling Mercedes for first place in the constructor standing. So these would be some huge points for Haas. And also huge points for DK.
DK's only 13th in the championship right now. I believe he's pretty new to the grid, but he's only 13th. But these would be huge points for him as he battles Comic and Rise, the top 2 drivers in this championship so far. Looks like Mars wants to get on board with Fexen, who's now right behind Dre Dude. Dre Dude on those very, very, very old mediums. And he's definitely dropping off now to 8th. Good job by him to not fight it. There was really no point. It's now Fexen who's ahead all the way up to 7th. Great timing. It really was. I need to learn to do that more often. It's so hard to keep up with everything going on. It really is, but I'm trying my best. Thank you for calling that out. It worked well. Let's see what else we got going on here. Another 3-second pen, but again, that's towards the back of the grid. Not really going to affect the points much from what I could see. Just 1 second between not only the top 4, but the top 5. All the way down to K5. Things are so close. So how far will DK start to fall down? Because he's not going to have ERS. I should say DRS. And he doesn't have much ERS either. So, not having DRS on the straight, it's going to be the time that some of these guys like Rise, especially, are going to start pushing with their battery. So let's see if DK drops any spots, or if he gets a good enough exit to stay out in the lead. It's going to be really hard for him to stay in the lead. But let's see. Comic in P2. Whoa. Oh, a little bit of DRS chicken, and it causes contact between him and the Mercedes of Rise. DK tried to play a little DRS chicken, and it absolutely did not work out for him. He's dropped down to 3rd, and now Jay Morris is pushing him. He not only lost P1, but he lost P2 as well. He's dropped all the way down to P3, and he might lose that also. DK tried to play a little bit of DRS game, and it absolutely did not pay off, all the way down to 4th place. The way he braked, I almost thought there was a safety car coming, but no, that just did not work out for him. He felt that same pressure that I thought he might be under, and I think he tried to be a little too cheeky with it. And now we see him dropping down the order again. We saw him dropping down the order on the hards on his first stint, and now we see him dropping down the order towards the end of the race. Just 2 laps to go. Jay Morris has now found himself in the top 3 with Rise and Comic. This is not over yet. It's absolutely not. As K5 and Lee Bob want to say something to DK as well. But DK is really falling off now, and I think the win for him's gone. I think it's between Rise and Comic now, and again, like we said earlier, Rise has so much battery save that he has to have the advantage. And now look at more. There's more DRS games going on. That's some really dangerous stuff. Both drivers trying to get the DRS, and it looks like Rise will be the one to get it. And he's got the battery, and he gets the overtake. As we enter the last lap of this Grand Prix, it looks like Rise has won the DRS game, and maybe just this race. Jay Morris trying to do his best to push for P2, but he looks like he's pretty comfortable into his podium spot. DK is going to do his best to hold on to P4, but it's not going to be easy because he's got K5 right on his gearbox, pushing him probably to the last turn of this race. I don't want to lose my eyes on the battle up front, but K5 is maybe a little contact from behind. It looked like maybe Lee Bob may hit him a little bit, but either way, Lee Bob gets in the front. So now Lee Bob, who's been sitting in 6th, finds his way to get into 5th. And can he make a move on DK into 4th before this race is over? We just have a few turns to go. So not much time for these drivers to make a move. Rise now, using all of his battery. 7/10 ahead. I think he's all right. I think Rise is in a good position to win what would be apparently his 3rd race in a row. That would be quite the number for Rise. As here he is. He enters the last straight, 6/10 ahead. I think it's pretty safe for him. And he does. He crosses the line. Your winner, Jay Rise on the Mercedes, followed by Comic and Jay Morris. DK does hold on to 4th. Lee Bob and K5 right behind him in 5th and 6th. Let's see who else we have. We have Fexen then coming in across the line in 7th. We have Angie making an overtake, or trying to, on Lewis right at the end. Dre Dude doing his best to stay ahead. Can Dre Dude stay in 8th? He does! He stays ahead of Angie, just barely so, on those 21 lap old mediums. He does finish in 8th. That's a good job by Dre Dude. We've seen him do that tire whispering before. That's not the first time we've seen him do that. And let's see who's last across the line. It looks like it's going to be last in the points is Big Melt. Wow, that was a very close finish, but Jay Rise ultimately is your winner. Got the last couple guys across the line here, but like we said, it looks like Jay Rise is your winner here. Apparently that is his 3rd straight victory here in D2, so a fantastic drive from him. Mars, thank you. Great job. And a win for the Mercedes, as Jay Rise is going to increase his championship lead and Mercedes' lead in the Constructors. So again, let's look at our final order here, and we'll get to driver interviews quickly after, and we'll wrap this up. And DK Vito reporting his tires were all the way up to 92% wear, so we are very close to seeing some punctures there, and he does manage to get fastest lap as well. So DK doesn't finish on the podium, but he does get the fastest lap. He finishes 4th. Again, our podium is Rise, Comic, and Morris, followed by DK, Lee Bob. What a day for the Mercedes. Both their drivers in the top 5. K5, who was on pole, finishes 6th, followed by Fexen, Dre Dude, Angie, Mumford, Big Melt, Wide Vader, Robot Reaction, Bahavish, Lewis, Umka, Flav, and Pickle Rick. Those last 3 drivers all DNF'd. So many penalties there. 18 seconds of penalties from Bahavish. But again, your top 3. Rise, Comic, and Jay Morris. And Rise is your winner of the Qatar Grand Prix. His 3rd win in a row. And starting to look like your favorite here in D2 to win the championship. Now let's see. Let's go into the room. Let's see if anyone wants to hop on the chat. Anyone wants to get in the booth. Where do I go? I always forget. Alright, just trying to see if we get anybody in for interviews here. If not, we'll wrap things up, but just give everybody a second. Another great race here at the Lusail circuit in Qatar. It looks like we do have a couple drivers that want to do interviews today, so let's get that going. Let's see who we have. So I'm seeing 2 drivers in here. I'm seeing Rise, and then I'm not seeing who is that on the bottom. We got Rise in here, and then who else? Oh, hold on.
I can't hear shit on my phone right now. Alright, let's get these guys in here. Let me get this set up.
There he is again.
Alright, you guys hear me? You guys can hear me alright?
Yeah, you can hear you.
Alright, good stuff. So we got one of the Mercedes here. So both Mercedes, is that correct?
Yeah.
Alright, so...
Oh yeah, you three, yeah.
Alright, so let's start with not our winner today, but let's start with our other Mercedes. I believe that's the Mercedes of Lee Bob. Looked like you were hanging around in 6th for most of the race. I think you found a way to get past K5 right at the end. I think you finished in 5th. So how did your race go today?
So qualifying did not go to plan. Somebody left the pits too late for their outlap, and so they couldn't slow down in front of me, and I got distracted. So I was out P12 in Q2. It wasn't looking too great. I've not got too lucky so far in the races, but my pace in the race was really, really good. Actually, I got up to the P7 before the safety car, and then obviously Flov disconnected. That was a massive help. And then on the final lap, K5 went wide at the hairpin at the end of sector 1, and I managed to get him on the exit. So I was actually stuck in 6th for most of the last stint, but I managed to get P5 on the last lap. I was so close to P4. Obviously, yeah, he had 91% tyres, so maybe I should have got him, but I'm happy overall.
Yeah, no, I did see that finish. You guys, all the way from 4th to 6th, were incredibly close. I know he was on those very old mediums, so yeah, it was very close to the end. But you did a great job of finishing where you did. I see we have one other person who got in here. Looks like K5. Let's go to K5 first. K5, you finished in pole. You had quite the lap time, but when all was said and done with the race, you finished in 6th. So what was the difference between quali and race? How do you feel with everything that happened?
Overall, good weekend for me compared to what I had in the previous weeks. I had the pace, but just couldn't do it in the race. In the safety car, I messed up the pit entry, so I lost position to Comic during the safety car, and then I just went down after that. On the last lap, at the hairpin, I hit Bram's rear, so I had to correct, and Lee Bob got me on the exit. That's about it.
Yeah, everything was really close with the top six all race. So all it took was one little incident to drop a position or two. So yeah, it was very close. And let's finish up with our race winner. Apparently, it's your 3rd race win in a row. Is that correct, Jay Rise?
That is indeed correct.
Well, congratulations. How was your race today? I think you qualified P4. Is that correct? And found a way to win.
Yeah, I was getting screen freezes this entire quali and race, so quali was not the best for me because I can't really concentrate when my screen freezes every other second or so. So that was not ideal. And in the race, I just stuck behind everyone, tried to save my battery, and at the end, Comic tried to play a little DRS chicken with me, and I predicted it pretty well, and then no incidents or hiccups on that as well, so good to see. And then I overtook him, and I saw on the straight he had less than 10% DRS, and I already had like 60%. So I was gonna overtake him, and then I was gonna burn away, and then I eventually got the win. It was such a sweaty race. Like I can say for everyone else as well that was in that pack. Oh, it was so sweaty.
Yeah. And we were watching your battery for most of the race, so we were kind of suspecting that you were gonna try to make a move at the very end there, and it did pay off. So nice. Congratulations with the 3rd straight win, and yeah, I know.
Thank you.
I think that extends both your lead in the Drivers' Championship and Mercedes' lead in the Constructors. So double work for you there. Good job. And I think that's it. So that would wrap up. That wraps up our race here. I hope everybody enjoyed it. If anyone's still here, and yeah, we got the D-Run race tomorrow. I believe Sour Tub is on the comms for that, and we'll have D2 and D3. Yeah, next time. So hope everybody enjoyed the race. D1 tomorrow, Sour Tub on comms. Hope everybody enjoys it. Good night.